Adiyam to everyone. Happy Monday. Happy Tuesday morning if you're in Australia, Hong Kong, Singapore. Thank you all so much for joining our session today. we get to go a little bit deeper into the beautiful philosophy of yoga. Patanjali's, like I explained before, here in book 3, he's emphasizing the concentration of the mind. And I like I say, today we have our scientists, and we call them psychiatrists. They are doctors who are trying to understand the nature of the mind and try to understand why there's tension in the mind and how to alleviate tension in the mind. A lot of scientists are trying to figure out the nature of the mind. Patanjali, thousands of years ago, is giving us techniques of how to bring relaxation in the mind. It's amazing that so many years ago they figured that out. If you ask anyone, where is the mind? Most people will say, where it's in here. No, your brain is here, right? The yogis, rishis understood the mind comes out of the heart space from where the Atma is and spread over the whole body. Similarly, where is the intellect? The intellect comes out of the heart space and spreads over the whole body. Where is consciousness? Comes out from the spiritual being whom we are and spreads over the whole body. So if you understand the dimensions where they are, then you can start to work on purifying them. So the mind here, he's understanding we're trying to train the mind to be concentrated. And they recognize that a concentrated mind is a very relaxed mind. If you can get your mind focused, your mind will experience calmness, quietness. So yes, so we want to get the mind as concentrated as possible in our daily life. If the mind is not concentrated, and that's why I like to refer to, when we say Patanjali is a yogi, he's much more than a yogi. He's actually an amazing, he understands the nature of the mind. Like any of our psychiatrists today, he's like 100 times more evolved. He understood that our mind is always having thoughts in and out constantly. And if we can learn to just concentrate the mind, we start to develop a power, the power that's in the mind. So in this, we're at mantra 4 of book 3. Mantra 4 of book 3, he starts off book 3. He starts it off with the Dharan. Dharan is the Sanskrit word for concentration. And so in book mantra 4, he says, the practice of these 3, Dharan, which is concentration of the mind, Dhyan, meditation, and samadhi upon one object is called samyam. So here we're going to come across this phrase, samyam. He's going to use it a lot in book 3. So as he uses it, he's referring to a technique which you should have developed. And if you do this, if you master it, you will develop the powers of the mind. Now, he not only tells us the powers of the mind can have material benefits, and the power of the mind can have astral benefits, or we would refer to them as mystical benefits. And the power of the mind, when it's concentrated, can then experience spiritual benefits from it. So when we live in this universe, right? A lot of time people, they want to see, Yogi, can you do something mystical, right? I try to remind them, hello, have you ever seen an engineer? Have you ever met an engineer? And then I explained to them, the engineer, according to the rishis, according to the yogis, the engineers have concentrated their mind power to perform a lot of mystic feats. They just use it for the material elements. And I said, I like to use the analogy of an airplane. It's amazing, right? Who can put together a level of metal, right? And combine it in such a way and throw it in the air and let it stay up there. And not only just let it stay up there, but can take off and can also land. So that's a power of mental power, the power of the engineer in the labs, figuring out speed, figuring out space and time, weight. It's amazing. So whenever I see an airplane or an automobile, that tells me the engineer who's created that their mind is extremely concentrated. It's focused. And so, but because it becomes so second nature for us today, we don't think it's a mystic power. It's a mystic power for a plane to fly in the air. It's amazing. It's submarines, right? Or even just a boat. Like, how do you put something to float? So there's a lot of mental concentration that takes place, whoever built that boat. You're understanding the buoyancy, what type of wood. So what are they doing? They're focusing on the elements of the universe: earth, water, fire, air, ether. Any engineer you find, they're concentrating on the elements, means they're focusing on it. And so, yeah, so it's not just yogis or spiritual people have mystic power. A lot of people have concentrated their mind to bring forth something from the astral realm into this dimension. Just the amazing of the phone. We're using a phone right now. I'm in Hawaii. You're in somewhere thousands of miles away, yet we're in the present moment. Like New York is 6 hours ahead of me. So if I was to say hello to someone in New York right now, it should take you 6 hours before you get that message. And then you reply to Yogichu, hello Yogichu, another 6 hours. But our scientists in the lab, they're engineers, they've concentrated their mind on time, space, the dimension. And then they're like, wait, there's radio waves around the planet. We can tap into those waves and speed it up. Like right now, you're hearing me in the present moment. So the engineers, so the person who created this apparatus, their mind has to be extremely concentrated. And so we see a lot of humans have this ability to focus their mind. Now, when you come to the spiritual journey, the yogis are doing the same thing the engineers are doing it, but then they're tapping into more of the astral powers. The astral power, which every one of us tap into when we go to sleep at night. But it's just that we don't train to be concentrated when we are sleeping. We just go in and whatever manifests, manifests. So then the spiritual and as you concentrate the mind, live deeper, 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 we can then harness spiritual powers. Now, Patanjali gives a very, why does he, and he teaches this part way at the other half of his book, because he's hoping that by this time, when you have this kind of power of concentration, by this time you already been living with your yama and niyama. And remember, in his yama and niyama, he's explaining how you practice continence, how you practice truthfulness. You should, by this time, you should already practice non-greed. You should be practicing, you know, your personal cleanliness, sochi, clean in the mind, clean in the heart, so that when you start to develop the powers of the mind, you don't misuse it. Because what happens, we see, it's amazing engineer who creates a knife, right? You pull a knife. It's amazing engineer who, how did they concentrate their mind to come up with the metal to mold it in such a way? But then, if I pick up a knife and I'm covered with the mode of rajas, passion and ignorance in my mind, what am I going to use the knife for? For something negative. I'm going to pull aside someone, put the knife at their throat, rob them. I'm controlled by rajas and tamas. But if I understand the knife and I'm in the mode of goodness, and I'm a doctor, I'll use the same knife to then perform a surgery, right? And for me to perform a surgery takes a level of concentration. When the doctors, they go in the lab to perform a surgery, their mind have to be extremely focused, right? So doctors are extremely focused beings. Could you imagine you have to go take a heart surgery and your doctor is watching a soap opera while going into your heart space? Oh, wow, she did said that no. So we can see level of concentration in humans' mind all over the planet. Now, that level of concentration, what happens when you do it again and again and again and again? You get better and better and better and better at it. So every day when we sit down to turn the senses inwards, you get better and better and better at it. And then you have concentration of the mind. So the yogis, they recognize we have this body, like this is my small finger. I have full control over my small finger right now. I can tell my small finger, bend to the left, it will bend. I can tell it, bend, move to the right, I can do it. I have full control over this physical body. Now imagine you have that mental power where you close your eyes and you can control your mind to that degree. When you have that kind of concentration in the mind, the byproducts, naturally relaxation comes because the mind is not jumping around, but with it will also come mental power, and the mental power to move the elements around. So here in book 3, he's hoping, like we've been studying the sutras for a while, so we've all touched those aspects, yes, of purifiedness, cleanliness, non-violence. So by this time you all understand, okay, and then the deeper you go and you enter the power with your mind, hopefully our mind is in the mode of goodness when we develop the harness the power. Because we've seen when people develop mental power focus and they're in the mode of rajas and tamas, passionate, they misuse their power. So we don't want to misuse the power of our concentration, right? Let's bring something positive out of the mind into this dimension. Right? The engineer who created a car, right? Amazing how they developed it, how a car moves. But then someone misuse it. Someone goes and drink and drive, create havoc. But then someone who's in the mode of goodness understand, okay, I won't drink and drive. And especially today, what do we see how we misuse it? People are driving and texting. More just no, drive and be in the mode of goodness. Just drive, just be. But today we can't just be. We have to do it. The mind so scattered. People can't just drive. You got to do something. No, just be in the present moment. Do what you're doing. So as we harness the power, concentration, we want to make sure it's in the mode of goodness. So the philosophy of yoga is teaching us, let's concentrate the mind. Patanjali says 12 seconds of concentration, you will then move from dharan into dhyan, meditation. 2 minutes of meditation constantly on one object, you start to experience samadhi. So these three aspects, dharan, dhyan, samadhi, he calls it samyam. Now, there are two types of meditation or concentration techniques. We call it two-dimensional saguna meditation. You're concentrating your mind on something external. And then you close your eyes and then you perform the three-dimensional sagun meditation. So when you're concentrating your mind on something outside, we call it sensual consciousness, sensual concentration. Yes. In other words, we're using one of the senses, either your eyes to look at an object, and maybe you're using your ears to listen to a sound, listen to the music. That's what you're going to focus the mind on. And maybe through a taste. So those are called sensual concentration. And then when you close your eyes or you turn your consciousness inwards into the three-dimensional, we call that mental concentration, right? So we're saguna, two-dimensional, inside three-dimensional saguna. So we've been using I've been asking people to hold an object. But today and henceforth, till we get through the rest of the chapter, I'm going to introduce to you Tratak. So, and we use Tratak concentration with a candle flame. So I think most people are home. If you are at home and you have a candle, easily accessible, we're going to use that. If you don't have a candle today, that's fine. You can just use maybe a dot on the wall, something on the wall, just for you to perform the two-dimensional focus. So if you have a candle now, go get your candle and a lighter. Very good. So giving the mind something to focus on via one of the senses helps us to concentrate on it. So one of the senses every one of us use constantly is our eyes. The element which governs the eyes is the fire element. So it's a beautiful, easy technique to help a beginner to focus the mind on something external. Then when you close the eyes, the flame, you'll see the flame inside the mind, the Chidakash. Then we'll perform internal concentration. So it's, and the more and more you develop it, what will happen is when you close your eyes and you're performing the internal gaze, you'll see the flame in the mind, and the flame will try and want to move around. Don't make it move around. Keep it steady. What that tells us is if the flame starts to move around, it means two things. It means when you were externally gazing, you weren't steady. Your eyeballs were rotating a little bit. So when you close your eyes, the flame is doing that. So when we're open the eyes, try not to blink and just gaze. That's the key. So as the mind gets focused, concentrated, Dharan, it will then, when you close the eyes, you'll see the little flame. We're going to perform internal concentration. It's easy with the flame. If you don't have a candle now, that's fine. Just use a dot on the wall, and when you go home, you can use the flame. It's even a beginner always gets the after flame. The after flame sometimes will be a different color than expected. You might see a red flame, you might see a green flame, a blue flame. It's to you, it's unique to the level of your concentration. So we're gonna, and the beautiful thing is when you're concentrating on a flame, the whole universe falls away. And as we explained, initially in Dharan, you will understand the flame and you. After a while, even your perception, and it's just the flame. That's when we understand that. And then if time just falls away and you forget what time it is, you're just totally absorbing that flame. That's when we understand the first level of samadhi. And when that happens, Patanjali will explain in the next sutras, deep wisdom, knowledge comes up from the inner flame, from the Atma, who we are. So let's move into the practice of Trata. You're going to measure your arm distance from elbow straight, fingertip to the shoulder. That's how far away you want to sit from the flame. And you want the flame to be eye height, if possible. You don't want to strain the neck. So you don't want the flame to be too high where your neck is straining. You don't want it to be too low where the neck is strained. Eye height if possible. And if you're not using the candle flame, whatever object you're choosing, try and get arm distance away from it and try and keep it eye level. Good. And I want you to light the flame, but as you light the flame, make sure there's no fan. Make sure there's no AC, because the fan of the AC will make the flame go like this. And we want the flame to be as steady as possible. Now, when there's no external ventilation, the reason we are sitting at arm distance away is because when you practice your pranayam, I'm going to ask you to slow the breath down. You don't want the breath to come out with so much force so that your breath disturb the flame. So you're going to slow down the ujjayi breath. Slow breathing, slow out. Good. So let's get started. You can bring the spine tall, sit in your comfortable posture. Close the eyes softly and become aware of your whole body becoming still. And as your body moves into stillness more and more, then it tells us our mind is already starting to move into stillness. Less and less thoughts will move in and out of the mind. We're going to try and keep our mind on that flame for at least 12 seconds, either externally or internally. Maybe we keep it for 2 minutes and beyond. It is uniquely your experience today. According to the type of food you had in the last 3 hours, according to the type of sleep, your mental body has changed. So don't be too hard on yourself. It's an experience for you to go in and have this experience. Bring your awareness to the breath and breathe slowly in, slow the breath down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale slowly. And exhale slowly. And I want you to open the eyelids, gaze at your flame, and for this time, just gaze at the blue part of the flame, just around the wick. Try not to blink. If at any time, if a tear falls down, if you start to tear, that means the eyes are straining. Go straight ahead and close the eyelids. Don't wait for me to tell you to do so. And when you close your eyes, if the tears come, you'll see a little flame inside. You do the three-dimensional gazing. Keep gazing at the blue part of the flame now. Everyone, close the eyelids. And as you close, you're going to perform the three-dimensional Sagun concentration of the mind. You will find a little flame inside. Keep it steady as possible. Recognizing you, the spiritual being, is witnessing that little flame inside. Very good. Let's open the eyelids, and this time gaze at the orange, the yellow part of the flame. No blinking. Breathe slowly as possible. Close the eyelids and concentrate all your mental power on that inner flame. Keep that inner flame steady as possible. Nothing else exists in your mind other than the flame. Open the eyelids, use the sensual concentration, use the sense of the eyes, gaze at the orange yellow part of the flame. No blinking. Nothing else exists in your mind other than the flame. Close the eyelids, concentrate, mental concentration on the inner flame. Try and keep the flame steady, developing that laser concentration like a heart surgeon in the mind. Only that flame exists. One last time, reopen the eyelid, gaze into the orange yellow part of the flame. No blinking. The only thing in your consciousness is that flame. Before we close the eyes this time, I want you to out the flame, out the flame. You can blow or use the hand out the flame, and then close the eyelids one last time. Perform your internal gazing, your mental concentration on the flame. Again, the little flame or whichever object you use will try and move around. Keep it steady as much as possible. When the inner flame or the inner object completely disappear, it will disappear naturally. I want you to then harness the power of your mind and recreate it in the mind. Recreate that inner flame or that inner object that you were using. Recreate it and hold your recreated flame or object in the mind now. Whenever it fades away, recreate it, keep it steady in the mental plane now. Excellent. Now I want you to move your focus of your mind to the chest region and recreate another flame in the heart space where you can feel your chest expands as you inhale, where you feel it contracts as you exhale. Recreate another flame there. That inner flame is who you are, the spiritual being. And the more and more you can concentrate the mind, the more and more spiritual knowledge will come out of the heart space. Recreate a flame in the heart space now. Very good. Now spread your consciousness from that heart space back to the entrance of your nostrils and witness you, the spiritual being, witnessing the breath moving in and out of the nostrils slowly. And again, maybe today you were able to focus your mind on the flame for 12 seconds, maybe longer. Maybe today you saw many other thoughts entering the mind other than the flame. That's natural. Every time you sit, your concentration power develops more and more and more. I want you to recognize the room you're in and recognize the chair you're sitting on came out of the concentration of the designer, the carpenter, mind, their focus on the elements. They were able to create the chair. All the all the artifacts around your room right now came out of someone's concentrated mind. Be mystified when you go out today, when you see a car or you see a plane or you're using your phone or your understand these are coming from concentrated mind. The yogis recognize the more we can concentrate the mind, we can then have power over the mental elements. We can control earth, water, fire, air, ether. We already do it in our own way throughout our life. Now it's time to understand how it is done. And as you keep that mind concentrated, you will have a relaxed mind and a focused mind. We're going to plant our sankalpa in the mind one last time since we're understanding the concentration power. You know where you're at this phase of life. Maybe you want to plant a sankalpa for your health, maybe for your wealth, maybe for your mental peace, free from all emotions, maybe for your spiritual sojourn. Know where you're at. Plant your sankalpa 3 times in the mind mentally now. And just like you saw that inner flame, you recreated, I want you to use your inner vision, see yourself living with this sankalpa already manifested. It's just a matter of time moving from now through space to manifest it. See yourself living with that desire. Very good. Let the image go. Take a deep inhalation. Exhale slowly. Let's chant the Om mantra together once. Om. Move the fingers slowly. Bring the palms to the heart. Lower the brain, the skull, the whole head towards your higher self, the Atma, that inner flame towards Paramatma, Lord in the heart. Namaste. Lift the head, open the eyes. Thank you all so much for joining today. If you, and henceforth, we're going to use the candle flame again and again and again, so we strengthen it. And on your own, try, and the yoga is, like I say, it's essential. So the yoga is, normally we use either sight or we use hearing. So when I'm meditating in the morning, I'm always contemplating on a song vibration, maybe the different mantras, and that takes the mind concentrated. You get the power of the mind. It's a beautiful thing to have a concentrated mind. And don't take your phone just, oh, it's a phone. No, it came out of a deep concentrated place. Thank you so much. Mahalo Shifumi. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you, Matilda. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Basha. Thank you, Antoinette. Thank you, Helen and Zaline. Thank you, Yumiko. Mahalo, David. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Helen Lee. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Jovita. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, Nan. Thank you, Orit. Mahalo, Paula. Thank you, Sammy. Thank you, Subin. Thank you, Vivian. That's have a beautiful rest of the evening. A concentrated mind. Thank you.